So hi there, and welcome again to another edition of The Wild Side, the wonderful little experiment that I've got, which is showing the other side of the music industry rather than the glory of the front end. This shows where career paths can take you, and so you can tell mum and dad, no, I'm going to stick with this thing, and I'm going to take a ride on the wild side. And I'm talking about the Motley Crue version, not the Lou Reed. So with me this evening now, I've got an old mate of mine, a good friend of mine from the years gone by, and we've kind of stayed in touch and not stayed in touch. Know what each other's doing. Is Troy Kelly, TK, the owner, running man, and producer, engineer, everything for the Armoury, the one of the most well-known studios in Wellington. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm good, thanks, mate. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, not much else to
Good to
say other
see you.
than just what I like to do is just tell everybody to count how many times I say in my conversations, because that's become a little piece of a little feature of what I do. So look, I'll just kick straight into the questions that I've got for you. Just to give everybody a bit of an idea about where you come from, what you do, etc. So, as I mean, you are a well-known and established producer. So, what are your qualifiers for choosing who you work with?
Whoa, yeah, okay. Right into it.
Indeed, man.
Uh, my qualifiers for choosing who to work with. Well, I probably wouldn't put it so blunt. I'm I'm more of a little bit more of a human kind of person. I like to kind of hope that they've come to choose me because they, potentially like the music. That's generally how it works. They like a track that they've heard, and they've somehow, which is quite hard these days to find out how it was made or who produced it, and they might come to me through the music. So first of all, that's probably the way that it kind of works. Um, I kind of have this uh internal checklist for making sure that I'm the right fit for the glove, should we say, in the sense of like there's a couple of things. The first one is I like to have a listen to the music and make sure that I actually like the music, like as a human, as a person, because there's way more to this than just a job or anything like that. Like this is, we're talking about making music and uh, hanging out with people and having a laugh and being creative. So I have to really feel like that I like the music, I like the band, I like the style of music, like I'm totally into it. So because for me, I have to feel like I'm all in. And essentially while we make the project or the song or the EP or the album, to some degree without sounding like a bad documentary, I'm kind of in the band for a little bit, like I'm right in there. So we have to make sure I like the music. Um, the second one, and probably like the one that I is one that I always think about, and I have to be quite realistic, and I have to feel like I've got something genuine to add to the music or the band. Like when I listen to a band and they like so if I think about something like say I can think of a band where I really like the music and I like the band, but they were going in a different direction on this record, and when they came to me, I realized it was a lot more pop than what I do. So I had to go, I could do it and it'd be cool, and I could bloat about it all over the internet or whatever, but I just wouldn't be the right person. So I had to pass that to someone who I know is good. So for me, it's really about like, you know, um, liking the music, liking the band, and um, feeling like I've got something to add.
Cool. So
A lot
basically,
more.
you've got a very much an investment on a subjective level, on a personal level, rather than just okay, this is business kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. If you do it for totally for money, which a lot of people do, it's going to be a long hard project. um yeah, I'm terrible because I'm actually the other way. I'll end up making nothing on the project because I spend so long on it. And I'm like, oh man, oh you know I'm
You
actually
get
doing
it
that
here
right now.
first,
It's like
folks.
anyone that's worked with me know that I'll be like emailing them the day that I said I'd mix it, and I'll be like, I'm just going to do some more editing. I'm just going to put some percussion on, or I'm just going to do some keys, or what do you reckon about this piano? And usually they're like, hey, our management really needs the mixes, man. You know,
So,
I've got that email today. So yeah.
Look, could for people looking in and interested in who they're going to work with next, can you explain what kind of production you offer?
Yeah, sure. So um, I'll try not to blow my own trumpet too much, but
Do it.
I I kind of I like to imagine that I'm uh not at the extreme, but somewhere getting towards a musical producer. Like I am a musician. I've studied music. I've played bass since I was about 13 or 14. So I I love music, like the nuts and bolts of it. So I'm not um the kind of producer who just sits back at a sort of subjective level. I would love to be like that, but I always feel like I've got something to add, going back to that first question. So
Mm.
I'm quite often putting my hand up and being involved. But in terms of the type of production, I'm in from the very beginning. So I will help people with the arrangement, the lyrics, uh, everything from making sure the song's in the right key, we've got all the parts we need, getting prepared for the studio, right through to mixing and even mastering these days, because stuff's going straight to Spotify, and with Spotify it's a bit of an easier format to master too. So I'm the whole thing. I'll even play bass on people's projects, as we know. um
So
and
I played
lately these
bass on
days I've
my
been
album.
yeah. And then lately I've been playing a bit of, or doing a bit of programming and keys and that sort of stuff, because I've kind of started to delve into that pool of things. So yeah, I get right in there, but I have to compartmentalize it. Like, I will definitely, when I get to the end or close to the end of a mix,
Mm.
put my spiritual producer cap on, lie on the floor, listen to an album, um, pretend that I'm just zenning out, or zen out, and just listen to it and imagine what it's like to listen to it for the first time. So we do all of that stuff, and sorry, I do all that stuff. So yeah, I really, really, no stone unturned is the phrase I always use.
Yeah. So what's
Yeah.
your favorite part of the process?
uh Without a doubt, um I want to say being finished, but that's just because I'm feeling a bit tired on a project at the moment. But no, it's vocals. I love vocals. For me, it's like the hard work is done. That is the hard work, like recording a band, getting it in tune, getting it all in time, making sure everyone's happy, having enough parts, and then you're like, right, now we can make a song. Now we can make it so that it moves the soul, and we can really help that singer to get their vision across and their lyrics across. And it seems like it feels like it's a bit easier than doing everything else, because it's like you just get someone up to the right mic and you go, and then it's just coming alive. And in the space of anywhere between like 2 and 4 hours, you can just be getting goosebumps and getting the magic. And in that time you can barely tune a drum kit. So it's
Yeah.
it's really cool I love doing vocals. I think it's because I can really help people with tuning and tricks of vocal production and doing lots of layers, and I really get into it. And a lot of people who haven't worked with a producer before have just gone to a studio, or I guess have just done one track and they're out. Whereas coming to a session with me when I'm producing vocals, I really get into it, and everyone's always like, "Whoa, that sounds so cool." So I really enjoy that little vibe.
Awesome. Awesome. So
Yeah.
what comes to mind as some of your favorite projects you've produced?
Oh wow. So there's a number from me. Well, I've that's really hard, because I have done a massive amount of genres, because owning a commercial recording studio, people do come to record via the studio path, and then I produce or ask them if they'd like me to produce, and I do. Or
Mm.
sometimes I what I call pseudo produce, which is where you don't get paid, but the songs are great and you need to help them. So so I've done everything from folk music to technical death metal, like literally that wide. But stuff that's on Spotify that people can listen to that I've produced, if I go down the bottom end, so acoustic music would be a fantastic duo that's in Wellington called Boatshed Daydreams.
Okay.
They've got an EP up on Spotify, and I did a New Zealand on Air artist development with them, so they've got sort of more stuff hopefully coming out. If we move on, there's thinking about this. If we go to like soul funk, there's a group from Palmerston North called Truly Made. I've done two or so EPs with them, and we just did a vinyl last year. So that's kind of like incognito English kind of soul funk sort of stuff, which is
Right.
great.
Cool.
Horns
Yeah.
all done live. Yeah, all done live. So that was a quite a big one. If we go to sort of indie rock, there's the New Brides. That's got an album, or might be an EP on Spotify. There's sorry if I forget anyone too. There's Lizard Prom. Actually, Lizard Prom's worth checking out. They're a band that's sort of up and coming. They're from Hawke's Bay. It's like a sort of the earlier stuff was stoner shoegaze, and now they're going more 90s, and it's fantastic stuff. Right through to the metal. One of my sweet spots is metal. I think it's just a guy thing, but I've done a lot of metal and I really, really enjoy the metal. So Bullet Bout, Red Dawn, Carnal, Scissorac, Blindfolded and Led to the Woods. There's so many, and sorry if I forget anyone out there, but a lot of metal. And there's a really good one, couple of good ones on, they're all of those are on Spotify. So yeah, so I do it all, but yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Too many genres, too many projects you've worked on just to pick a handful. Fair enough. Fair enough. So,
Yeah,
look,
but
yeah.
I know you go.
Okay, so what would be some red flags for you regarding like how easy or professional an act is going to be before you start working with them? I think you kind of
Um,
covered it in your in the first question, really. But I mean, does anything else spring to mind when when you think, oh, maybe this
I
isn't
guess all
for me?
the bad experiences spring to mind. Yeah. Can I smoke out the window? No, we don't smoke inside. And then you turn around, they're smoking out the window. I guess that's one.
Yeah,
Um, oh, look, I tend to I'll get people in before we even talk about anything to have a coffee and a chat and
yeah,
just vibe each other out. And like that really very rarely happens. Probably like less than 3 times in 20 years. I think um yeah, most people when if they think they want a producer are not really a red flag. I will, obviously price is one, it costs to pay a producer, so that's usually a red flag on their side of things, so then they won't continue.
yeah,
But no, most people are pretty good. I mean, I think like for like kind music attracts musicians and artists, and we're
yeah.
generally all a good bunch, aren't we?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that I mentioned with interview with Nick Douch recently from Echo Park, that the industry
Yeah.
is in New Zealand is, I found it far more nurturing than places like the USA and UK, which are just 100% cutthroat. There are avenues and levels that you can that you can work with to help your career. And I mean, what I'm trying to do now falls under that. I'm trying to help people to understand the wide range of career paths you can get, and I guess people who actually take the step into the
Yeah.
industry, yeah, laid back cool dudes like yourself are just gonna hit it off with these people.
Yeah, I think in New Zealand we tend to have a layer back in our psychology that we need support as an individual, so we help other people. So we're all helping each other. We're not necessarily seeing a goal at the top that we are asking people how they got there, or how can we get there. Like when you go to the States and you talk to people, they're always like, oh, who are you working with? Who's this? Who's that? You can see they're kind of sussing you out for, they're not all like that, but a lot in LA, and actually the nicest people in LA are Kiwis, or have worked with Kiwis. You know, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
have you worked with a Kiwi? Yeah, so it's yeah, I mean, it's amazing. You know, we all just know how hard it is, and we're all doing it for love because there's no money really in it. So um, you know, in making music, especially now with like what 6 bars in the country. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think I know the answer from one of the earlier questions. So
yeah.
are there any specific genres that you prefer to work with? What's your happiest time? I think I know the answer now though.
All right. I Yeah, definitely the heavy stuff, the rock and the metal. When it
Yeah.
gets to technical death metal and that sort of stuff, I do like that as well. But I try to limit those to sort of one album a year because um, it's nice to do other stuff. If I could, I always say if I could win lotto and choose whatever I would do all day, it'd just be recording drums. I just love recording drums. You know, like drums are just so much fun, just making heaps of noise and like yeah. But like the heavy, the rock, drums, and actually jazz. But the problem is jazz musicians just don't have any budget whatsoever, so you don't really get to record much commercially. Uh, Having studied jazz and understanding jazz, it'd be a dream too to just go record jazz all day. In fact, I tried to give someone a free jazz album and they never came through. That's how crazy it is. I was like, I'll do you an album for free, and then two
No.
years later.
Oh my Lord.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's how keen I was to do a jazz album. Yeah.
Well, bear that in mind.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna get heaps of emails now.
now, yeah, yeah. So like, if onto that, if a new act is looking to work with an experienced producer, what kind of things do they need to consider before approaching you? I mean, how do they get you? I mean, what do they say? What do you
Oh,
want them to bring? Do you know? Do you? I mean, physically, what kind of tangible thing do they need to come along with?
um, do you mean like to the studio, or do you mean metaphorically like
I mean,
with
yeah,
with the band?
physically to the studio. What kind of things do they
Oh,
need?
right.
Yeah,
They can turn up with just themselves and hopefully not their phone, because I have everything else.
yeah.
You know, the amount of times I turn around, everyone's just head down. I'm like, hey, you know, we're in the studio, man. You
Yeah.
know,
What
no, we
level
have
of
everything.
yeah,
Instruments, just their instruments. We've got everything else here. But the thing is, if you have a specific sound, I always say, um, bring that. Like if you have a snare that you love the sound of course your cymbals, kick pedal
yeah,
because it's a feel thing. It's almost like you can treat it like a festival. Like the back line is here if you need it.
yeah,
Uh, but you can bring your own. I mean, I've got 3 drum kits and a dozen snares, a beautiful DW kit, a Pearl Masters, and an old vintage Pearl. So we have, you know, the basics kind of covered, and it's always changing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And okay, so how do you prefer to be approached? I mean, is it do you prefer a warm handshake? Do you prefer somebody to come in out of the cold? Do you prefer an email? What kind of thing?
Um, the email through the website's the
Yeah.
best way to get me,
So give us the
because then I
website
have
then.
a record. Yeah, I've got a website. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
tkomusicproducer.com.
Can you repeat that again?
TKO, which is the name I produce under, TKO. So it's
All one
tkomusicproducer.com.
word, .com. Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's how they get you, and they drop a message via the website.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah.
Yep. Facebook's I'm terrible. Like I get so many messages on Facebook, and sometimes I don't even know how to get back to them. You know, because I've got a couple of accounts.
Yeah,
So the websites, I
via
sit
the
down and do
website.
emails every
Cool.
night. Yeah.
Okay, good as gold. Okay.
Mhm.
So why did you get into the engineering production side of the business?
Well, I was really, really lucky that in high school, uh, the basically the year I turned up at high school, they'd just finished building what I now look back on as a really good analog recording studio. It was a beautiful English studio master with an 8-track 1-inch, and I was the only one. Oh, there's 2 of us actually, but I was older than that guy. But we read the manuals and learned how to use the gear almost, I would say, better than the tutors. And being young and having time and nothing
Yeah,
else to do, we really learned how to use this place, and we were making songs and having a ball, and we were in there every lunchtime, and to the point where in my last year of high school, the teacher just gave me the keys for the summer holidays, and we actually moved all the gear into the school hall and started recording in the hall and getting this ridiculously big drum sound. So at that
Cool.
point, I was like, I was already playing music. I was like, this is just as cool as playing music. It was just like magic. I thought I felt like a magician just capturing sounds out of the air. And then, you know, subsequently, as I bought my own gear, I realized I sucked, and it was just the gear was really good. And you know, because it was taking a long time to get back to that kind of thing. Uh, yeah, so really good studio at high school, and then it just progressed from there. Came down here, studied jazz, and
Yeah.
then got back into it after that. Just started buying gear, and um, that was in like the late 90s. And then
Mm.
uh, yeah, without going into it too much, my wife to be was like, get out of the house and do this shit somewhere else. So um, she's real supportive though. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, you look around, and then yeah, so then I re went to rent to the studio, and I think probably one of the first handful of albums I did was with you.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that really
Yeah,
well. It's such a really good experience that I had. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and
yeah,
you get something out of it. And yeah, and you were completely invested in it as well. Like every time I come in, it's like, look, I've done this. What do you think? You know, and it's fantastic. You know,
yeah,
very much to be good to be working with somebody who is just totally bought into your project, because you know it's a personal thing for yourself, and then you know you're working with
yeah,
somebody who says, look, I've just done something. What do you think? And it invariably makes your stuff better. You know, so and I mean, as a
yeah,
getting onto that gets me onto the next question. I mean, as a seriously good musician yourself, I don't know whether you think so or not, but I think you are. I mean, you'd have that avenue as well, right? I mean, tell us about your playing, about the history of that, about the bass, what got you into that, and I mean, I know you do double bass and things like that, as you know. But I mean, obviously you do double bass because you do bass, but
yeah,
you
right.
you speak and I
Well,
went.
I know you're okay. I think it's just the Zoom. So yeah, I mean, I was hooked on bass like a lot of people were as 90s, or a lot of on music, like a lot of 90s kids were.
Yeah,
I just never stopped pushing, and pushed my parents to buy me an acoustic, and then I pushed them to buy me a bass once I discovered Flea. And my dad was amazingly supportive and got me it was like $150 Vesta from Cash Converters. And I was just hooked. And then I was on my own, doing my own lawns, buying basses, all sorts of stuff. So
mm,
I, yeah, and I just loved the sound of it, and played in bands all the way through high school. I was actually in my first pub covers band when I was in sixth form, and that was back when the legal drinking age was 20. So I thought it was real cool playing in the bars at high school. And then I came down here to study jazz and got my ass whipped, like absolutely whipped, like everyone does. Like whiplash is exactly what it's like. And and then clawed my way back to feeling like a human. And then just did a bit of jazz down here. Quickly learned that that was a lifetime trajectory. So I was like, okay, I'm going to focus more on my original vision, which makes me more happy, which is just playing bass and enjoying it,
yeah,
and recording and working with original bands and playing in original bands. I think I did about 5 or 6 years of playing wedding bands down here and bought some gear and got into it. But I've always been playing bass. What happened was I was playing in some original groups and weddings, and I kind of started to get busier in the studio, and it was like, okay, do I not work all day, sit down in the studio with a band and go and do an original gig and sit in the van for 8 hours and drive somewhere and get paid $80 and sit in the van another 8 hours for someone else's music, which is fine at some point. But I was like, no, I'm gonna go to the studio. So I started doing that in the like 2006, 2007, and then sort of stopped gigging at that point. But I've always been playing. I mean, I play every other day, and yeah, it's the bug. You never let it go.
yeah,
You never
true.
let it go. And I have a buddy who we jam with. Um, I'll trick him for a coffee, and he comes in. I'm like, bro, let's have a jam, because the kit's always set up. So
Yeah.
at 10 o'clock in the morning, if you walk down the street and you hear some guys thinking they can play something heavy and fast, it'll be us.
Bit of
It's
organic
like
drum and bass. Yeah, great.
I call it 16-year-old me. That's 16-year-old me having some fun.
Nothing
So,
wrong with that at all, mate. Nothing wrong with that.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's on the go right now? What are you halfway through, and what's in the pipeline?
Cool. Okay,
If I'm allowed
so
to ask.
working on. Oh yeah, no, it's fine. People aren't that precious. I'm working on a third EP from Lizard Prom, so the band I mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
So this one's very cool. It's hard to describe genres because bands will often think of it as in a completely different way to how uh, it actually sounds. So Blizzard Prom for me sounds like somewhere between um, Hole and Massive Attack. You know, it's
yeah,
like it's angry and it's 90s, but it's got that kind of little bit of that stoner shoegaze thing going on. So I'm working on a project with them, another EP. I've got a few mixes going on for another um, indie band called Midnight Snacks. So there's always sort of two or three projects going on. I'm in pre-production with a group called Seismic State, just about to start that actually. So I've kind of, you kind of stagger them so that as you finish one, you've got a window to recover and start the next one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. It's all go then. So that's
Yeah.
pretty much all I was going to talk about. I mean, is there anything else that comes to mind for yourself that you'd like to just give a mention to?
Yeah. The one thing I always would like to stress to people is that, because I get this all the time in pre-production, is there's three things that are the most important things in this gig. So one is the song, two is the song, three is the song. It's not how good the demo sounds. It's not about how much time it took,
Yeah,
all that sort of stuff. You can record a killer song on a phone and give it to someone who's a producer and say, hey, I need to record this song. And they're going to hear it, get the goosebumps and go, fuck yeah, I can do Tuesday. You know,
yeah,
it's
brilliant. Yeah,
it's the song, it's the song. Like instead of spending hours, it's good to teach yourself how to record. Absolutely, I'm all for that. I'm obviously same all that, but it's like work on songs. Like write a song every rehearsal. If you don't like it, go again. Just keep writing, keep writing. Like song 65 might just be so amazing that you can record it on a phone. Like for instance, I always use the Darcy. I'm getting excited. I always use the Darcy Clay example. That
yeah,
there's a song in New Zealand called "Jesus, I Was Evil" that blew
yeah,
everyone away.
yeah,
And honestly, the recording sounded like a bag of dicks. You know, it was shit, but it didn't matter. It just didn't matter because the song was so cool. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to make a song sound like bad, but what I'm getting at
mm,
is that the song supersedes production. Like if the song is good enough, there's a certain point that we just need to record it to and it'll work and everyone
yeah,
will love it. This whole thing of like I get a little bit like raspy when it's like an average song, but this guy mixed it. It's like so what? So
yeah,
what?
yeah. Still
You know,
should.
it's well, I wouldn't say that, but there's opportunity to make anything out of anything, but it's more like just it's the song. I'm a real advocate for the song, and that's what I'm always looking for. Everyone says to me, hey, we'd like to record. I'm like, oh cool, got any demos? And I'm like, this, you know
Yeah,
what's this going to be like? So that's what I'd say to people: just work on the wrong songs and be positive about it, and just go hard.
fantastic. Well, look, thanks for your time tonight, mate. That's really appreciated. It's good to catch up. So,
Yeah,
yeah, hope anybody who's watching has got something out of this. And look, I will catch you all again sometime soon.